All right, so there you see it. This is the death certificate for one Graydon Jerome Parker, who was beaten to death inside of a Wayne County jail on May 21st, 2017. As you see right there, the cause of death, anoxic encephalopathy, resurgent following blunt force trauma, physical restraint, and pepper spray use. And also that third one, conducted electrical weapon application. And this, once again, is the death certificate of Graydon Jerome Parker. Now, why am I talking about this? I covered this story about a year ago, but I wanted to revisit it now because of what we see here in the Wayne County Sheriff Department. It's almost a culture of debauchery. And in this instance, it is a culture of straight outright murder that was swept under the rug, where 6 officers, 5 detention officers, and 1 state trooper participated in hog tying, in pepper spray, in beating, in tasing this mentally ill veteran to death while he was in the midst of a manic episode, a manic schizophrenic episode. So basically, this man was mentally ill. And these 5 officers, I'm going to give you the names. So if you know any of these individuals, if you see them out in the community, know that they did this to this man: Xavier Lee, Brent Woodall, Jose Arias, Robert Hines, Nathaniel Neal, and Charles Granger. Now, I'm going to show some photos of who I think these guys are so you can recognize them when they're out in the community. Now, if these are not individuals, these individuals, feel free to call me at 919-587-7782. But as we see from this death certificate, that it has been confirmed that this man died as a result of anoxic encephalopathy. What that means is cardiac arrest. And the cardiac arrest stemmed from continued electrical weapon application. That means they tased him to death, as well as blunt force trauma, physical strength, pepper use, etc. Now, this happened in the Wayne County Jail under the direct supervision and direction of current Wayne County Sheriff Larry Pierce. Now, to give you a background of the situation, Mr. Graydon, who was a Vietnam veteran, also a mentally ill citizen, was arrested for breaking the windows out of a neighbor's car. And when the police came to the scene, he told them that God told him to do it. And so that one instance right there should allow the police to know, okay, look, this man needs some psychiatric treatment. At least a psychiatric evaluation. Nevertheless, when they transported him to the jail, he was mumbling inaudibly. And also they characterized him as having a 1,000-yard stare. Like that. Like he's just looking off into space, right? And so they get him there. They refuse to get him medical attention. They refuse to get him psychic evaluation, but they just treated him like he was the average drunk prisoner or the average prisoner that was on substance abuse or on drugs. So throughout the night, he was continued to have his episodes. When he would have the episode, they would come in and beat him. They stripped him naked. They tased him. They pepper sprayed him. And they continued to assault this mentally ill man throughout the night. It got so bad that he began, while he was naked, I guess he defecated and then began to smear feces on all over the walls and the doors. Now, this evidently aggravated the officers because, think about it, who's going to clean it up? The officers. So in response to that, once again, they dragged him to the shower, sprayed him with hot water, which he reacted to. They again beat him, tased him, pepper sprayed him, hog-tied him, and placed him in a cell for 9 hours naked. And through periodic checks, they realized that at one time he had turned blue and was not breathing. And therefore they called the ambulance, and he was pronounced dead. And they said all because of these 6 officers, failed to recognize that the man was not being destructive. He was obviously having a manic or mental episode. Now, I'm going to read this article. I'm going to read a couple of articles just to give you an in-depth look, but then I'm going to show you the pictures of these guys. But I'm also going to talk about this lawsuit because the family of Parker, his mother, settled a $985,000 lawsuit, almost $1 million lawsuit with the family of Mr. Parker. Now, of course, that's probably why you don't hear about this being talked about. There were probably some terms in the agreement which allowed the family to gain the money in exchange for them not saying anything more about the matter and also not pressing charges to these 6 individuals. I won't even call them officers. These 6 murderers who created the conditions and actually perpetrated the death of this mentally ill citizen. I'm going to read the first article real quick from Prison Legal News. Guards at North Carolina's Wayne County Detention Center abused and beat to death a mentally ill veteran who was arrested for breaking the window out of his neighbor's truck in May 2017. A civil rights complaint alleged. Gren Jerome Parker, 54, served 2 years in the Army with the 182nd Airborne Division. On the morning of May 20 of 2017, he was arrested for breaking the truck window, telling the deputies he did it because God told him to. During transport to Wayne County Detention Center, a deputy heard Parker singing and mumbling while observing. He had a 1,000-yard stare. He was charged with injury to personal property and resisting an officer, both misdemeanors. This man is dead because of some misdemeanors. The civil rights complaint filed last May alleged it was obvious, even to laypersons, that Parker was in the throes of an acute manic state and experienced a psychiatric emergency. Yet he was not rendered treatment or even screened for mental health issues upon booking. Guards instead misperceived him as a disruptive inmate or an intoxicated inmate beyond reasonable comprehension levels. That led them to pepper spray him several times in the face and drag him to the shower area. Once there, Parker was sprayed again. Guards undressed Parker and shot him with a water hose as he lay face down. When he defecated himself, he laughed about it like he did not care. Once again, the signs of a mentally ill man. Once they finished hosing him down, he was placed on a blanket and placed in an isolation cell. He continued to mumble to himself and to talk unintelligibly. LPN Christina Driver, who worked for Wayne County Detention Center's private medical provider, Southern Health Partners, tried to talk to Parker while he was in the cell, but she did not assess or screen his condition, provide treatment, or contact a physician. Once she left WCDC that afternoon, no other healthcare workers were present for the weekend. Parker continued his state up until the night shift arrived. Shift personnel were apprised of Parker's condition as being drunk or mentally unstable. Around 9 p.m., his mental condition deteriorated significantly. The response to Parker smearing feces on the cell and banging his head and hand on the window was pepper spraying. He was again dragged to the shower area. He yelled when sprayed with hot water. Guards Xavier Lee, Brent Woodall, Jose Arias, Robert Hines, and Nathaniel Neal then began attacking Parker as Trooper Charles Granger watched. The civil rights complaint filed on behalf of Parker's estate claims Parker was tasered on several occasions, hit with an electrical shield as he laid on the floor, kicked stomped, kneed, stomped, and placed in a chokehold over a 15-minute period as guards made efforts to hogtie him. Granger assisted in the hogtie effort, encouraging the guards to knock him out. That was achieved by tasering Parker several times while restrained as he laid on his stomach. Once again, he's already restrained, hogtied, and they continued to tase him. This is straight mob mentality and also murder. As I've spoken about many times in these instances, when these deputies and officers get in that group and they just go haywire, and they're encouraged by one another to continue the assault on this individual, as we see in the words of Granger, encouraging his fellow officers to knock him out. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to try to knock him out. Once Parker was unconscious and hogtied, guards left him and made periodic checks until they noticed he was turning blue and not breathing. When EMS arrived, the guards refused to remove the hogtie restraints, so efforts at CPR were made with them on. Parker's heart was restarted, but he never recovered consciousness and was pronounced dead the next day at 2:35 p.m. The civil rights complaint alleged the defendants were deliberately indifferent to his serious medical needs and used excessive force. It further alleged policies and procedures in place allow these violations of Parker's right to occur. It's something that was completely preventable, said Matthew Sullivan, who was representing Parker's 74-year-old mother. They didn't do what they should have done to keep this from happening. And that is from the prison legal news. Now, as of today, even this day, at the time of the article, Sheriff Larry Pierce never made a statement. And even today, Sheriff Pierce and many others in the community remain quiet about this matter. Why has this matter not garnered more attention, national attention? As we see from the sheriff deputy's federal investigation, there's a culture of this type of behavior. Not to mention many other deaths that have went, uninvestigated, like the death of James Spruill. I think that was the Spruill gentleman who was killed on 1/11, or once again, the newly unearthed death of William Shane Jones, who was actually murdered by now federally indicted cop Mike Cox. Right? So why aren't these things being unearthed by, major media, if not, even addressed by the sheriff department? Now, once again, on July 13, 2020, Charles Mahoney and Matthew Sullivan from Kinston finalized a $985,000 global settlement in a civil rights case arising from the wrongful death of Gren Jerome Parker in the Wayne County Detention Center in Goldsboro. Parker was in an acute manic state and experienced a psychiatric emergency when he was arrested and admitted to the detention center. The detention officers and nursing staff did not obtain any medical treatment for him, and he was pepper sprayed, stripped naked, and placed in a segregation cell for 9 hours. Mr. Parker's mental state deteriorated, and he was involved during the night shift in a fatal altercation with 5 detention officers. Once again, I'm about to show you these pictures now. And a state trooper. He experienced sudden cardiac arrest and later died to blunt force trauma, pepper spray, multiple Taylor applications, and positional asphyxia. And while being held in a prone position, the wrongful death lawsuit was filed in U.S. District Court for the Eastern District, North Carolina, against 15 defendants. The claims include deliberate indifference to a serious medical conditions and excessive force in violation of Mr. Parker's due process rights under the 14th Amendment. Mr. Parker was survived by his mother. So these 5 officers, and I'm going to show you, and once again, if you know these gentlemen, and they are not part of this instance, please let me know. But this is who I pulled out, and this is the photos that surfaced of Mr. Xavier Lee. Now, this is Mr. Lee right here. He's basically, out with this kid, showing them how to shoot. Now, once again, if this is not Mr. Lee that was involved in this, please disregard these photos. But I just do want to show you so people will know if y'all know if that is Mr. Xavier Lee from working at the sheriff department, that this is the same Xavier Lee that was named in the death of this man. Now, if you are not Mr. Xavier Lee, then please disregard this. You have my sincere apologies. You can call me 919-587-7782, and I'll personally apologize to you as well. Now, the next one, Brent Woodall. Now, I did not find any photos of a Brent Woodall, but I did find photos of Jose Arias. Now, this is actually him because it said former Wayne County Sheriff Office Detention Center. Now, this is this gentleman right here, Jose Arias. If this is the Jose Arias who was involved in the death of Mr. Graydon Parker, you definitely should be ashamed of yourself for taking part in such an action and not stepping in defense of that gentleman who was having a mental episode. Now, if you are not that Jose Arias, once again, I apologize. You can call me direct, 919-587-7782, and I will give you a complete apology. But since your profile says former detention officer, then I must conclude that you are that gentleman that was responsible for the death and the torture, basically, of that unarmed man. Now, I will go on to Mr. Robert Hines. Now, once again, Mr. Robert Hines, I don't know if you are the individual because it doesn't say that you are like a former deputy. So if this is not you, Mr. Hines, please forgive me, but I am just trying to alert the public on people who are killers, basically. So if you did not work for the Wayne County Sheriff Department, please forgive me. This is not that Robert Hines, but if this is you, Robert Hines, that worked for the Wayne County Sheriff Department, then I must, offer the sentiments of, Mr. Parker's family and also a lot of the public who feel that, detention officers are not supposed to kill inmates in a medical emergency, but are supposed to help them and make sure that they are safe. Now, I'm also going to go to the officer Nathaniel Neal. Now, this one I am pretty sure that, and this is a funny one to me because Mr. Neal, as you see here, and the only reason I would say that Mr. Neal is Mr. Neal because this is one of his pictures. He has the sheriff office emblem on his profile. And so if this is him, once again, I hope that you are ashamed of yourself. But also what's most disturbing to this is, here he is with a priest collar on. And so according to this information, if this is not correct, as a Christian, you were supposed to step in and help our brother. What would Jesus do in that time of need? So definitely I would have to, we all make mistakes, but I would definitely have to, disregard that collar if I saw you. Or if I was at your church, I would definitely, want to question, if this is him, maybe this is him, maybe that's not, or not, I don't think that's him. But I do see, I do see another picture of him. And once again, if this is not the Mr. Neal that participated in the torture, the beating, the electrocution death of Mr. Graydon Parker, then please accept my apologies. But if this it is you, I do think the public should know that you are the gentleman who was responsible for the death. Now the last one is Trooper Charles Granger. Now once again, he only had a couple of photos on his page. So just give me 1 second. Somebody always calling in the midst of these type of things. Okay, so I'm gonna go with Charles Granger. Now, said he lives in Goldsboro, and this is him. So once again, if this is the Charles Granger who was the state trooper who helped in hog tag and who said knock him out, this is that gentleman, public. This is your state trooper. This is the guy who was the responsible for the death of Gren Jerome Parker, and who also cost us, the taxpayers, $1 million of our tax money that could be doing to something else. So this is Mr. Charles Granger. So all 6 of these pictures, I think, and once again, if this is not that Charles Granger, let me say it again. I apologize. This is not the Charles Granger who used to work for the sheriff department. So once again, I must apologize beforehand. But if it is you, you should be ashamed of your show, as well as all the gentlemen. Now, once again, some of them are confirmed because it clearly states that they used to work for the sheriff office. Now, some of them are maybe not confirmed, but I mean, you Google the names or you Facebook the names, and if they stay in Goldsboro, you just assume. Now, once again, this is allegedly. I'm not saying that these are the guys, but those guys have the same name of the people listed in the lawsuit. So, again, we have clear-cut evidence. Now, this is just 6 years ago, but it was just settled 3 years ago. I don't know if anybody else has heard this. Several people covered this. I think the Raleigh News and Observer. I don't think some law reviews, WITN, Prison Legal News, AP News. I see an obituary for the Goldsboro News Argus. I see the News and Observer, but I don't see any articles from the Washington Times. Okay, it reached the Washington Times. But yeah, this should be heavy on our hearts here in Goldsboro. Goldsboro News Argus did talk about the civil rights lawsuit, but why didn't Goldsboro News Argus write an article condemning these gentlemen? I don't really see anything else. But, as we see here, Sheriff Pierce runs a department that is full of treachery, debauchery, gang mentality. Do what thou wilt, as Aleister Crowley would say. And all of these things should continue to be disturbing. And at this point, I think it's time for, us as citizens and taxpaying citizens to go ahead and take the steps to oust Mr. Larry Pierce, because it's evident that this guy, runs a ship that has run amok. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. We've been hoodwinked, led astray, bamboozled, ran amok by this thing that we call the sheriff department, and the propensity for outrageous and destructive behavior. But I'm not going to harp on this, but I just had to revisit it because it just came up back again in my spirit, once I, looked at some of my old videos. So, yes, 54-year-old Gren Jerome Parker was killed by 5 sheriff deputies and 1 state trooper in the Wayne County Detention Center on May 21st, 2020. 2017. If you have any questions, comments, please call me at 919-587-7782. Peace and blessings.